Shannon, and welcome back to Geekware's ASMR. I have a pretty graphic case for you this evening. Not necessarily, well, a little bit, but not necessarily the details of the case, but just the content of the case. This case does involve the death of a 9-year-old girl, and for some people that may be a trigger, or you may not want to listen to this one, so I will not be offended if you choose to skip this. But that was your warning, and it probably won't be the only one that you'll get, but I will try to let you know maybe when to skip a little bit. But I ran across this case, and I'm going to do this one a little bit differently than I normally do because there's just not a lot of information about the victim in this case. Her name's Elizabeth. Almost everything in this case is about the killer. So I'm going to take a little bit of a different spin on it and tell you more about the killer than the victim. I do tell you what I could find about Elizabeth, and I feel like her story does need to be told, so that's why we're here. There are also a couple other things that I'm going to discuss within and at the end of this video that I think are major subjects that we need to address in the world today. You know how I do, so I'm just going to get started, and here we go. This is the case of Alyssa Bustamante and Elizabeth Olten. I was very, very sad learning about this case. It's just horrifying, the things that we do to other people and the reasons why. So, Alyssa Bustamante was a Missouri native. She was born January 28th, 1994. She was the product of a romance between two teenagers with criminal records, and her mother had many run-ins with the law for major crimes, such as minor crimes such as DUIs and drug possession. Her father's case was that of assault, and at the time of Elizabeth's murder, he was serving a decade-long sentence for his crime. Alyssa got lucky because her grandparents took legal custody of her and her 3 younger siblings in California. To get away from their former lives, they moved to a rural ranch-like property in St. Martin's, Missouri. So back to Missouri, just west of the state capital of Jefferson City. Now, despite the setbacks of her parents, Alyssa was an A and B student in high school. She was well liked and had a lot of friends. She was a normal kid by all appearances, and her grandparents provided a stable home for her when her parents could not. Her friends said that Alyssa would write poems and joke around, and she regularly attended the LDS church and participated in several youth activities. But sometimes stuff just takes over, and in 2007, Alyssa tried to commit suicide. After she spent 10 days in a psychiatric hospital in the town of St. Martin's, she went on antidepressants. And despite these medications, Alyssa still liked to cut herself. Her friends said that she frequently showed them the scars on her wrists. I'm going to address this later, but it's a very hard topic. So she was on the antidepressants, and her friends knew about it, but they still accepted her and loved her just as she was. Online, though, Alyssa was a completely different person. She reveled in this bad girl image that she created. Her Facebook page bore images of her with smeared lipstick, red, designed to look like blood, and it was paired with black kabuki-style makeup around her eyes. She gritted her teeth and made faces when she wasn't pouting, like the duck face, you know. And she was known around town as a little bit of a bully. Like many teens, she was deeply involved with social media, and she had pages on MySpace, remember MySpace, Twitter, and Facebook. She had a YouTube account under the name of Okami Cage, which is Japanese for wolf shadow, and she filled out her profile. Under her hobbies, she listed killing people and cutting myself. She was treated for severe depression and for suicide attempts. Her Twitter account stated that she was somewhere she didn't want to be, and the profile picture was a photo of her with the smeared lipstick, and she was pointing a finger at her head like a gun, and you can see many little red cuts visible on her inner wrist. A tweet that she made a few weeks before the murder read, "This is all I want in life, a reason for all this pain." Her YouTube account was concerning. It featured several videos of her and her brothers, mostly engaging in horseplay or mimicking stunts from a popular TV show. But one in particular was kind of disturbing. It was called "Idiots Getting Electrocuted." And in it, Alyssa and her two younger brothers are standing in front of an electric fence. She smiles at the camera and grabs the fence. She, of course, grimaces. If you've ever been shocked by an electric fence, it's not fun. Well aware of the pain that it causes, she convinces her younger twin brothers, age 9, to do the same thing. And the screen reads, whatever. "This is where it gets good. This is where we see my brothers get hurt." And they dutifully follow her instructions. They grab the fence, and the video ends with them on the floor, half laughing and half shuddering. I don't really know what kind of kid wants to hurt their little brothers, but... So, when most teenagers have a Friday off school, they sleep in, they might get together with their friends, or they might bum around the house in their pajamas all day. I still do that, and I'm not a teenager. When 15-year-old Alyssa had a Friday off from school, she spent the day digging 2 holes in the ground to be used as graves. And then she waited. Alyssa went on with her life as usual. She went to school, she hung out with her friends, and all the while she was just waiting for the perfect opportunity to murder someone. This opportunity presented itself just 4 days later, on October 21st, 2009. In the evening, when her neighbor, 9-year-old Elizabeth Olten, was walking home from her friend's house. It was a typical Wednesday night at the home of Patty Priest and her 3 kids, Anthony, Stephanie, and her youngest, 9-year-old Elizabeth. She was going to be in a play at school, and so she was practicing her lines and doing Elizabeth. According to her friends and family and other neighbors, Elizabeth was all sweetness and light. She was a little girl made of sugar and spice and everything nice. She loved cats and the color pink, and she was a real girly girl. She was beautiful, long, medium brown hair, wide-set eyes, and she was described as shy. She was afraid of the dark, and she would not have normally gone into the woods. This made her disappearance all the more ominous. A woman as she walked alone through the woods. No one suspected that it was a member of their community, much less a teenage girl. But the details began to emerge, and rumors, of course, spread like wildfire. In the course of the investigation, it was discovered that during the time that Elizabeth was missing, all of the neighborhood kids went missing. All of the neighborhood kids were accounted for, except Alyssa Bustamante. And Alyssa decided to skip school on Thursday. It was the first and only time she had an unexcused absence from school, and she admitted that she skipped school that day. She was aware that the law enforcement couldn't find Elizabeth, but said she didn't know anything about it. They took her in for questioning, and during that initial session, the cops find her behavior really calm, and she was very forthcoming. And they said that she should not be considered a suspect. But searchers canvassed the woods behind the Bustamante home, and local volunteers stumble across something in the woods. It appeared to them to look like a grave in the woods, and that's when Sergeant Rice's investigative unit became primarily involved. He said, "We were called and asked to process the scene for the possibility that Elizabeth was in that hole, that she was in that grave." Sergeant Rice and his forensics team processed the potential crime scene. "We had been out there for several hours," said Rice, "and it was during that time that the FBI had been interviewing Alyssa initially, and they brought her to the scene. And I remember watching the two FBI agents that I know walk a young girl over. And this is when Sergeant Rice overhears something odd. I heard Alyssa say that she dug this hole. And of course my response to that was, why? Why did you dig this hole? And Alyssa said, I just like digging holes. And that she would bury dead animals when she found them. Time, of course, is ticking on this missing person case. It's now nearing the 48-hour mark, and Sergeant Rice is pretty suspicious of this empty hole, and he notes that it is the near perfect size for a small child, like Elizabeth. Simultaneously, back at Alyssa's house, I don't know what my dog is doing. The FBI obtained the consent to search the house, and one of their evidence officers, whoa, I speak English really, don't ask me to prove it, was assigned to search Alyssa's room. When the agent opened the door, it was a spine-chilling sight. This agent found several things in this room to be very disturbing. The walls were covered with bizarre writing, some in pen, while others, it appeared, were almost in blood. In one corner of the room, there was a poem about cutting, which we've talked about, but it's a form of self-injury, usually involving a knife or a razor blade. On another wall, there's a crude sketch of a person, and the head and arm appear to have slash style markings on them. A closer look, and there's a name near this deranged depiction. Emma, which was Alyssa's younger sister. There were also cards and letters taped to the bedroom wall from her father, Caesar, from prison. Now, that's fine. You want to correspond with your father from prison. You know, it happens. You can't blame that on her, but the FBI agent spots something else in Alyssa's bedroom. A journal. And when the investigator starts to read, the words jump off the page goes in. Alyssa's in there with her grandmother and a juvenile officer. They file into the interrogation room, and silence is a very effective way to interrogate people because they feel very uncomfortable in silence. And there were pauses up to 45 seconds to a minute long, and Officer Rice said you could see the stress affecting Alyssa. Her eyes would begin to tremor and her head would begin to shake. Right when he believes that she might break, he tells her, "We have your diary, and we've read your diary. Even the last entry, which was scribbled out." And then he waited. The effect was immediate. Once I brought up the diary, I could see a distinct shift in her demeanor, and I think it was at that point she knew that we knew, said Rice. Alyssa finally starts to reveal what happened to Elizabeth. She tells Sergeant Rice it was an accident. They were walking in the woods, and Elizabeth fell and hit her head and died. I explained to Alyssa that when we found Elizabeth, the autopsy would show every injury. And then he asks 15-year-old Alyssa a direct question. Was her throat cut? And Alyssa says yes. And this is when the grandmother loses it. She has to leave the room, and Alyssa comes clean. She said that she sent Emma over to the Olten house to pick Elizabeth up. And from that point, she claimed that she told Emma to go back home, and she took Elizabeth by the hand and walked her into the woods. It's a quarter of a mile, a 15-minute walk into the woods, leaving plenty of time for Alyssa to think about what she was doing and to not do it. But she continued on, holding Elizabeth's hand and saying, "Come on, I've got something really neat to show you. It's just a little bit further." Unbeknownst to Elizabeth, Alyssa is armed with a kitchen knife, and she's leading her towards these holes that she dug. It's a little graphic here, so I'll be quick about it. Alyssa said once she arrived at the site of the hole, she began to strangle Elizabeth while she was facing her. That she strangled her multiple times and stabbed her 6 or 7 times, and then cut her throat. Shockingly, Alyssa led them right to Elizabeth. Her body had been in the very woods they'd been searching. They had been in the area more than once. The body was very well concealed. Alyssa knew exactly where Elizabeth was, led them directly to it. She pointed it out, and if you looked a little closer, you could see that Elizabeth was only a few inches under the dirt. Prosecutors charged Alyssa with first-degree murder, and she was arrested, and everyone was shocked. A friend said, before all this, she was a normal 15-year-old girl. This really wasn't her. This is not the Alyssa I knew. But that journal entry of Alyssa's revealed a vastly more horrific person. Though she tried to cover it up by blotting out the blue ink, investigators were able to unveil the original writing in which Alyssa talked about the euphoria that she felt after killing Elizabeth. And it read, "I just effing killed someone. I strangled them and slit their throat and stabbed them, and now they're dead. I don't know how to feel at the moment. It was amazing. As soon as you get over the, oh my god, I can't do this feeling, it's pretty enjoyable. I'm kind of nervous and shaky though right now. Okay, I gotta go to church. Laugh out loud." The autopsy revealed that Elizabeth had been strangled and her throat and wrists slashed, and she'd been stabbed. Missouri State Highway Patrol Sergeant David Rice said that Alyssa's motive was simple, yet terrifying. Ultimately, she stated that she wanted to know what it felt like to kill someone. After the murder, a friend of Alyssa's came forward and said that Alyssa had told her she wanted to know what committing a murder was like. I was at her party and she kind of took me off to the side and she said, I wonder what it would be like to kill someone. Because I guess she was mad at one of her friends there, but it just seemed sort of strange. But you wouldn't logically think that one of your friends would kill someone. Honestly, if someone ever tells you this, please tell someone. Please tell someone. Alyssa was charged with first-degree murder in the death of Elizabeth Olten. She appeared in court on November 17, 2009, where the judge ruled that she would be tried as an adult. Despite her confession to the crime, as well as having led the police to Elizabeth's body, Alyssa pled not guilty. While in custody, it was reported that she tried to harm herself by cutting herself with her own fingernails, and she was exhibiting signs of anxiety and depression while in jail, and that she had been placed under suicide watch. She was remanded to a psychiatric institution to undergo evaluation, and she received immediate psychiatric treatment. Meanwhile, 9-year-old Elizabeth Olten got the funeral that she deserved, that of a princess. A horse-drawn carriage took her casket to the cemetery, and her friends and family all wore her favorite color, pink. Now, Alyssa was originally charged with first-degree murder, which would have carried a mandatory life sentence without parole. But shortly before her actual trial in 2012, she took a plea deal, and she pled guilty to second-degree murder and armed criminal action. There was an audible gasp heard in the courtroom when now 18-year-old Alyssa admitted to taking the knife to the throat of Elizabeth and then strangling her with her bare hands afterwards. Her defense team tried to offer a number of excuses for what could cause Alyssa to do this, including the fact that she was on Prozac and that she'd been taking it since 2007 after a suicide attempt, and she had just 2 weeks prior received an increased dose, or started an increased dose. They recounted the family history of drug abuse, suicide attempts, and mental disorders, and said that her mother abandoned her and her father was in prison to try to explain the mental state that Alyssa was in when she brutally murdered Elizabeth. Psychologists for the defense described Alyssa as psychologically damaged and severely emotionally disturbed. They testified that she suffers from major depression and also displays symptoms of borderline personality disorder, which is characterized by feelings of emptiness, instability of moods, inappropriate displays of anger, and poor impulse control. Though the details of Alyssa's mental stability were quite disturbing, previous suicide attempts, history of self-harm, including over 300 cuts on her body, Alyssa gave a final statement before the judge handed down her sentence. "If I could give my life to bring her back, I would," Alyssa addressed the court while family members of her victim wept. "I want to say that I'm sorry for what happened. I'm so sorry." She was then sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole, so she could get out. Now, the reason that she got the possibility of parole is because several months after all of this, they ruled in a separate case that juveniles cannot face automatic life sentences without the possibility of parole. She then got a new attorney who claimed that her original public defenders were ineffective. At a court hearing, the now 20-year-old Bustamante testified that she would have accepted the plea deal had she known about the possibility for the nation's high court to wipe out the mandatory life sentence for juveniles convicted of murder. But one of her original attorneys testified that they had talked to her about issues pending before the Supreme Court. He said that Alyssa stood a very strong risk of being found guilty by jurors of first-degree murder had she not pled guilty to a lesser charge. Cole County Circuit Court Judge, that's a tough one. Cole County Circuit Judge Pat Joyce wrote in a decision dated on a Thursday, but it was just released, that Alyssa's request to set aside her guilty plea and sentence was meritless, and that her original attorneys were not deficient, so they tossed it out. Patricia, Elizabeth's mother, felt as if the original sentence was too light. She called Alyssa a monster and said that she hated everything about her. She declared Alyssa not human after her sentencing, or during her sentencing. Her speech was so poignant and impassioned that the judge had to ask her to stop. That absolutely breaks my heart, but I feel like we have to talk about self-harm. Self-harm is the act of deliberately injuring yourself. This is most often done through cutting, and it is also called non-suicidal self-injury. It's generally often a sign of intense anxiety or distress. A person might harm themselves to numb emotional pain. They might also self-injure to maintain a feeling of control when they feel like they lack control in other parts of their life. Self-injuring behavior is not the same as a suicide attempt, although some individuals who self-harm may attempt suicide. In general, acts of self-harm do not indicate a desire to end one's life. However, they can still endanger one's mental and physical health. And if it's left untreated, this behavior may continue for many years. There is help out there for individuals who wish to stop this. However, if you or someone you know is experiencing a crisis, you may need to seek emergency help. Please contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255 to speak with someone right away. This story got to me. I know a guy who liked to self-harm, and I tried to help him, and there were many times where I probably put myself in danger to try to help this person, but I'm not qualified for such things, and whether or not this person genuinely felt the need to self-harm or it was an attention-seeking task, it was still very scary to witness and to try to figure out what to do. I should have found someone more qualified than me. I didn't know what to do except talk to this person. situation that you're not afraid to ask for help from anyone, someone you trust. If you're young, talk to an adult. If you are an adult, talk to another adult. Going to therapy doesn't mean what it used to. I mean, there used to be such a stigma around going to therapy and receiving psychiatric help. I will admit, I probably should have. I was so depressed in high school, I came home from school and I ate something and I did my homework and I slept until the next day. And my mom told me once, I was very close to the point where she was going to take me somewhere to be evaluated, but I did get myself out of it. There are people that just can't do that. I'm not, and this is just myself and my medical knowledge, but I'm not a big fan of medication to treat things like this, because I don't like medication at all. I don't like pain medicine. I don't like foreign substances in my person, but that's my personal choice. Whatever works for you, works for you. I just think about all the damage I'm doing to my organs and things like that when I put foreign objects in there that's not supposed to be in there. That's just how I feel. I probably should have gone to grief counseling when my dad died, but I couldn't find one that wasn't, and don't take this the wrong way because I'm not, I couldn't find one that wasn't Christian based. I'm not a Christian. I'm not going to talk about religion because that is just a whole other thing. You believe in what you believe, but I needed someone to talk to that wouldn't just tell me that it was God's will, because I needed more of an explanation than that. It wasn't enough of an explanation that it was his time, because it wasn't. That's a whole nother topic that I'm just not gonna get into, but I really probably should have talked to someone in that period of my life, and I probably should have taken my sister with me because she needed it too, and we probably still do. Definitely probably have moments where I feel like I just can't handle it, and man, it'll be 4 years. I don't think that the stigma of therapy is what it used to be. And I, ran off like a squirrel with ADD there onto another topic, but I feel bad for Elizabeth's family and Alyssa's family. They said that originally she dug 2 graves because she was going to kill her little brothers. I don't know how the grandparents didn't notice the cutting if it was so visible. I don't know how they didn't notice the graffiti in her room. The fact that she just said she just wanted to know what it felt like really creeped me out. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm gonna stop rambling now, but I will talk to you soon.